Surely you've heard of a 5-step plan before. You've probably also heard of a 12-step plan to deal with alcoholism or other drug-related treatments. But have you ever heard of a 39-step plan? No? Well, neither have I, because that sounds absolutely dreadful. Who'd want to take that many steps just to try and deal with just about anything? So don't take the 39-step plan, take this shortcut. But wait, how does that pertain to this game? You'll find out shortly. Actually, it'll take quite a while, but you'll find out. Hiya folks, Fruit and Doggy here, and this won't really add up for people who are tracking along with the pictures, but I finished doing the entire game, and as I was looking through the recording footage, I noticed that I missed one of the chapters. You know, as I was doing multiple recording sessions, I must have somehow forgot to start the recording, so this is the missing chapter. So I'm gonna record this. At this point, I do know how the story ends. I'll avoid any spoilers. And at the very least, excuse me, I'll read the game dialogue as always. But I'll of course still try to chime in with different commentary. It's just, it's not going to be as spontaneous and fresh, I think, as the first time through. Especially since my context from the last recording session, it's completely gone now. I woke with a burning head and the sun glaring in my face. For a long time I lay motionless, for this horrible fume seemed to have loosened my joints and dulled my brain. And I will admit, the unfortunate thing is my memory is good enough. These things are enough to cue some of the statements I made. So it's like, do I just make the same statement I made before, or not? Because I basically made something to the effect of joints and fumes. Haha, wee joke. There was a little gap in the parapet to which I wriggled, and from which I had some sort of prospect of the yard. Yes, Scotland Yard. I saw figures come out, a servant with his head bound up, and then a younger man in knickerbockers. And for those of you keeping score at home, this is the second man with knickerbockers so far. I saw the rotund figure of my late captor, and I thought I made out the man with the lisp. I noticed that all had pistols. Probably because they wanted to kill me for blowing a hole in the wall. They were looking for something, and moved towards the mill. I thought it might be me. But I wasn't sure. For half an hour they ransacked the mill. Then they came outside and stood just below the dovecot, arguing fiercely. I tell you, he's still in that mill. No, we've gone the wrong way. We've got to go the opposite direction. He's completely led us astray. I heard them fiddling with the door of the dovecot, and for one horrid moment, I fancied they were coming up. And it's kind of unfortunate you don't hear them arguing, though voices of banter and dissent, but... excuse me. Then they thought better of it, and went back to the house. Wait a second, guys. There's one last place we could check here. The last place he could possibly be. I mean, we're already out here anyways. And we really want to capture this guy. Should we check? Nah! I mean, why bother? There's no way. And just to clarify something I figured out later, what he did is he climbed up to the top of the building. He's on the roof of the mill. That's what they mean by dovecot. I had no idea what that was referring to at first. Excuse me. This cough driving me nuts. All that long, blistering afternoon, I lay baking on the rooftop. I wish I could get baked on the rooftop, but I just had to sit there and get baked, or bake. Thirst was my chief torment. My tongue was like a stick. I don't know what that metaphor is supposed to convey exactly. I watched the course of the little stream as it came in from the moor. I would have given £1,000 to plunge my face into that. And I tell you what, folks, I'm sure there's a dozen different ways that can be taken in a not so PG friendly way, huh? I saw the car speed away with 2 occupants and a man on a hill pony riding east. I wish them joy of their quest. Hey, good luck, guys. Have much joy. It's gonna be more than mine. If that aeroplane came back, the chances were 10 to 1 that I'd be discovered. So through the afternoon, I lay and prayed for the coming of darkness. Come on, get dark, get dark! Yeah, I found out as well that seemingly you're supposed to go like upper right and then a clockwise fashion. So basically like 1 o'clock through back to noon or midnight. It's weird. My shoulder was in a bad way. At first I thought it was only a bruise, but it seemed to be swelling and I had no use of my left arm. Yeah, that's pretty bad. I had a crushing headache and felt as sick as a cat. Wait, isn't the expression sick as a dog? Is that a European expression, sick as a cat? I've never heard of that. Those lintonite fumes had fairly poisoned me, and the baking hours in the Dovecot hadn't helped matters. Well, no, I don't imagine so. I had neither coat, waistcoat, collar, nor hat. My trousers were badly torn, and my face and hands were black with the explosion. I dare say I had other beauties, for my eyes felt as if they were furiously bloodshot. Like, my gosh, such a disheveled man. He has no coat, he has no waistcoat, he has no collar, doesn't even have a hat. My golly. It seemed to me that the sooner I got in touch with the Foreign Office man, Sir Walter Bullivant, the better. He must just take or leave my story. And anyway, with him I'd be in better hands than those devilish Germans. I had begun to feel quite kindly towards the British police. My plan was to seek Mr. Turnbull's cottage, recover my garments, and especially Scudder's notebook. Then make for the main line and get back to his house. And I will mention that it wasn't clear earlier on that he had left the notebook with his garments that he left with Mr. Turnbull. I wasn't aware that he had discarded and left it behind. So yeah, that's done. Thank God it was a black night, as opposed to a white night. Those are the worst. My thirst was too great to allow me to tarry, so about 9 o'clock, so far as I could judge, I started to descend. I shan't tarry as far as getting my drink. Halfway down, I heard the back door of the house open and saw the gleam of a lantern against the mill wall. For some agonizing minutes, I hung by the ivy and prayed that whoever it was would not come round by the Dovecot. Then the light disappeared, and I dropped as softly as I could onto the hard soil of the yard. I crawled on my belly in the lee of a stone dike, no comment, till I reached the fringe of trees which surround the house. I was in a pretty bad way. Well, yeah. I mean, this is what I don't get is why didn't you say that when you're talking about not having the use of your left arm and your screwed up shoulder and everything else wrong with you? It's like, I fell to the ground and I crawled. I felt like crap. It's like, well, yeah. 10 minutes later, my face was in the spring and I was soaking down pints of the blessed water. But I did not stop till I put half a dozen miles between me and that accursed dwelling. And this drove me nuts the first time I saw that because those two statements do not transition into each other. I drank a bunch of water and I didn't stop until I was a dozen miles away. It's like, that doesn't fit. That doesn't make sense. So yeah, there's a couple of typos or sentence structure issues with this work. I sat down and took stock of my position. It wasn't very good. Sir Harry's map had given me the lie of the land. All I had to do was to steer a point or two west of southwest to come to the stream where I had met the roadman. I calculated I must be about 18 miles distant, and that meant I could not get there before morning. And I do have to ask, how would he know how far away he was? Like, how does he have any notion of distance at this point? Plus, how is he going to direct directly west or slightly southwest? How's he going to get his bearings? Hey, he sounds just like me, huh? Very soon after daybreak, I made an attempt to clean myself in Hillburn and then approach a herd's cottage, for I was feeling the need of food. I was kind of hungry, yeah.
What's happened to you?
Forgive me. I've taken a pretty bad fall.
Come in.
Well, yeah, I don't imagine it was a really good one. Like a true Samaritan, she asked no questions, but gave me a bowl of milk with a dash of whiskey in it, and let me sit for a little by her kitchen fire. I mean, who needs peaches and cream when you've got cream and whiskey, am I right? She would have bathed my shoulder, but it ached so badly that I would not let her touch it. She was a decent old body and a plucky one, for though she got a fright when she saw me, she had an axe handy and would have used it on any evildoer. I don't know what she took me for. A repentant burglar, perhaps? I mean, isn't anybody who gets all banged and tore up, doesn't have any food, pretty repentant? Anyways, she showed me how to wrap the plaid around my shoulders. Excuse me. And when I left that cottage, I was the living image of the kind of Scotsman you see in the illustrations to Burns' poems. And I have no idea what those look like, so... good reference. Could have tucked...
Take this as payment for your hospitality.
Could have tucked that in the picture.
Priscilla. No, get it in here riktigt. Riktigt if you insist. Tack my plead and this old hat that belonged to your man.
What I was trying to say is, since they're going to make that reference, they could have put a picture or two for a reference for those of us who want to get who the poet is and what those pictures look like. I passed over the miseries of that night among the wet hills. I mean, that would have made them really wet then, huh? Twice I lost my way, and I had some nasty falls in the peat bogs. Well, yeah, how come you didn't... I don't know if you could have asked for directions, but I mean, you're trying to get back to a road. Couldn't you have followed the road or something? I had only about 10 miles to go as the crow flies, but my mistakes made it near 20. Yeah, I really kind of screwed up. The last bit was completed with set teeth and a very light and dizzy head. I was addled and fuzzled, but I managed it. And in the early dawn, I was knocking at Mr. Turnbull's door.
Where are ye that come stravaiging here in the Sabbath morning?
Stravaiging? My head was swimming so wildly that I could not frame a coherent answer. But he recognized me.
Ah. Hi, have you got my specs?
You know I do. I fetched them out of my trouser pocket. Thankfully they weren't charred to
Come for
bits.
your jacket and waistcoat. Come on by. Gosh, man, you're terrible down to the legs. Hold up till I get you to a chair.
And you're kind of breathing like you're all screwed up or something. Nancy, we're similar people right there, coughing and hacking up. I had a good deal of fever in my bones, and the wet night had brought it out, while my shoulder and the effects of the fumes combined to make me feel pretty bad. Yeah, I mean, being really sick. I felt pretty bad. After that, walking 20 miles, not getting enough to eat, I perceived I was in for a bout of malaria. I don't really know what malaria consists of, but I imagine that's pretty dreadful. Before I knew, Mr. Turnbull was helping me off with my clothes and putting me to bed in one of the 2 cupboards that lined the kitchen walls. Wait, why is there a violin playing? I feel like that's an important question. He was a true friend in need, that old roadman. Oh, okay. So, that should be good. I've redone that chapter, so now I can mix that in with my other footage. I know it's a little bit screwy, but I don't want to just skip a chapter and not have that in part of my Let's Play, so I apologize for any funkiness that comes of it, but you do what you do. But anyways, I'll see you around later, folks, and as always, Fruit and Doggy!